Have you ever thought about how the family you were born into limits you in the way that you think and the way that you are? Our family has a huge influence on us in terms of where we live, our attitudes to life, how much money is in the family, family traditions, our position in the family. Are we the oldest? Are we the youngest? Are we the favorite child or are we the least favorite child? It defines how we look and what family values are important. So is it surprising that many people feel like they don't fit in? And should we be surprised at that? Should we question why that is? What if your values are different to your family? What if your family wants you to continue traditions which you don't buy into, which you just don't feel are important? It can cause a lot of conflict and a lot of confusion and disappointment. Maybe you feel that you're not the child that your parents wanted, or you're used as a scapegoat for all the family issues. Do you get the blame for everything that seems to go wrong? Or it could be something to do with gender roles, for example. Are the gender roles within your family imposed on you which you just don't buy into? It just doesn't feel true to who you are. Traditions have a lot of energy behind them. If you think about it, your parents probably inherited beliefs from their parents, and they probably inherited beliefs from their parents. So there's a lot of energy that is behind that in terms of the family generations and the thought process and the intentions that have gone into developing those. So it's not an easy thing to break. So if you're struggling with something like this, finding it difficult to break free from maybe a family tradition that you don't buy into, just think about that idea that all the generations have bought into and enforced this tradition over many, many years. So to actually break free from that can be very difficult. And the pressure to conform to certain traditions becomes even more apparent, say, if you move home or if you become friends with people from different cultures and different traditions. It just highlights those things within your own family which are different from who you feel you are at the core. We can also talk about ancestral trauma or generational trauma, which is where there's been something in your family line which has challenged the family and it's carried on through the generations. So something like poverty, for example, if you've got a history in your family of poverty, even if you've broken free of that and you now are relatively wealthy, you could still adopt the mindset of somebody who's in poverty in terms of maybe being really, really careful with your money when you don't need to, or being afraid of losing all your money. These are things that are inherited from your parents and your parents' parents, and it can go back many generations. And again, quite difficult to break free of because it's so reinforced in our mind and in our genealogy. Also, some parents want their children to live their unfulfilled dreams. So you may feel pressure from parents, whether it's conscious or not, to go a certain path in life, not because it matches who you are as a person, but because that matches what they wanted to do with their life that maybe they've not achieved. And this can be very confusing and cause a lot of conflict again, because it highlights that you're not being seen as a person, you're just being seen as you're being seen for the potential you have to fulfill somebody else's dream. So in order to heal from these things, the first thing is to recognize them, to recognize it as a thing and to want to move on from it. So it's good to spend some time thinking about those roles or those responsibilities that you've inherited which don't really belong to you, and decide what you want to do about them. And remember, when you make a change, you're not just changing it for yourself, but you're changing it for potential future generations. So if you were taught to be a certain way, or certain traditions were enforced within your family or strongly encouraged, you can decide whether you want to carry that on or not. So making a change could make a change to all your future generations in your family. We do need to accept what we can't change, so we can't necessarily change other people. We can only change ourselves. In changing ourselves, sometimes that influences other people to change as well, but we always have to start with ourselves. It's also important not to play the victim, because nobody has a perfect life. So again, we can look at these things not in terms of feeling victimized or feeling disempowered, but rather turning that around and thinking about how we can take steps to overcome it, to reclaim our power. So just a few thoughts on how families influence us as a person and how to think about making a change and breaking free from that. If this resonates with you, I'd love to hear your comments. Please type a response in the comments box and don't forget to like and subscribe.